Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Flynn. I'm hosting today with the fantastic artist and illustrator, Bill Hope. Hello, Bill.
Hey, how's it going? Good to be back on the stream.
It's nice. Is this our first stream this year? It seems crazy.
I think it might be. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Well, I hope you had a Merry Christmas. How long do we say that for? What's new? What's new with Bill Hope?
Not a great deal. I'm sort of getting back into the working year with my usual commercial work, and I'm struggling to finish up the next of my children's books for next Christmas. So,
oh my God, you're working on them now for next. I guess that makes sense. It's a long process.
Yeah, I'm in a year-long round perpetual Christmas cycle. It never ends.
You still enjoy Christmas?
I do actually. I'm a bit of a Christmas fan, so I don't mind so much. Yeah.
I hope it stays that way.
Yeah. No, don't worry. It hasn't killed it off for me. But yeah, doing well.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you back. Hello, everybody in chat as well. I can see Alessandra in chat, Manny, all the way from Philly. What's up? And Johanna as well, looking after us in chat. If you have questions, we are live. We're really live. So if you have any questions as we're going on through our process, don't hesitate to throw your questions in chat. And we have a great couple of streams. So today's our first stream. Tomorrow will be part 2. They're kind of connected as well. So Bill comes on and does so many different things, which I think is really cool. I love that every time I'm chatting to you about a stream, you're like, hey, can we do this like almost completely different thing? I want to use a bit of After Effects, a little bit of Illustrator. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. This is great. It's like a little bit of experimentation live, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeps it interesting. So for anyone who hasn't seen any of my streams before, my name's Bill Hope. I'm a commercial illustrator living in the Blue Mountains, which is kind of near Sydney for anybody overseas. And I do all kinds of things, as you may have seen from previous streams. So I do children's books, which I was mentioning before, but quite a lot of work in kind of advertising, and I do quite a lot of illustration for sort of business as well. So there's a whole range of things. If you don't mind sharing my screen, I might just put up my website, Flynn, and I can just go a little through some of the work that I do. So I kind of have a fine art practice as well. So you can see here I've got my artworks, I've got some sort of editorial stuff. I do kind of like big Where's Wally style drawings, so I've got a couple of those here, and then some more sort of standard commercial work as well. So we've done a bunch of streams going through a bunch of those different disciplines, but today we were going to look at making a certain kind of animation, which I don't know what the right word is, but I kind of call it a reveal animation. It's kind of like seeing a drawing appear on screen. And I kind of got into doing this kind of thing with lots of the corporate work that I do. So I do kind of quite a bit of drawing in business, and I do sort of live drawing as well, where I'm sort of drawing at events and things. And I come up with these sort of quite complicated drawings showing all sorts of little bits and pieces of ideas people might be having, or plans for their business, or things like that. And I've been doing drawings in this style for a while, and then people wanted to...
Hey, Gabby Lord, I know all these people,
yep.
That's great.
Those are from Creative Mornings, but we met many years ago. And people wanted to see these animated. So I over the past couple of years, I've been experimenting with finding ways to sort of make pictures like these move. And it's become quite a good sort of additional offering that I can have for clients, where I take these drawings and turn them into sort of animated videos. And for anybody getting into commercial illustration, it's a really good skill to have, because there's an increasing demand for people to be able to do sort of static illustration, but also to bring a bit of animation and sort of make it video kind of. It's a great kind of job to have, because if you're working as an illustrator, you can take on these animation jobs and you can kind of do the whole process end to end. With a lot of animation jobs, you'll need like a art director and an animator and an illustrator and maybe a script writer or something like that. But for jobs like this, you're kind of the person creating the whole thing. So I get maybe sort of 3 or 4 of these jobs a year, and they're just really good bits of work to have. So today I thought I'd just go through the process of how I make them, and we'll see where we get to.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've had quite a few streams on recently of people. I don't know if branching out is the right word, but adding animation, even small kind of subtle animation to a lot of what they're doing, just because everything's digital, right? And everything has the capacity to animate now, from websites to social, whatever it is, has the ability to animate. So understanding animation, even from a basic perspective, seems like a good, my words are terrible today, but like future-proofing yourself a little bit. Like
I think that's exactly it. And all the social media channels are pushing towards video. So even it doesn't mean everybody has to become an animator, but if you can sort of add just a little bit of movement into your existing work, that's a really great thing to have. And I think that's a good sort of caveat to put into this stream as well. I'm definitely an illustrator who does a little bit of animation. So my knowledge of After Effects and everything is pretty small, but I really enjoy sort of dabbling in these waters. So if you're looking for a really thorough animation tutorial, there are definitely great people to go to for that kind of thing. But I'll show you what I'm doing.
Awesome.
Great. Okay. So to get started with this, I thought we'd start really simple. To show you just how to get one part of this drawing moving. So I've got a incredibly simple sort of just arrow shape that we're going to start with, and I'll just show you the process of how I take that from Photoshop and bring it into After Effects with a short stop off in Illustrator. So we're going to be switching between apps a little bit, and we'll just quickly go through the process of how I sort of functionally get it to work, and then we'll focus on making something a bit more exciting and cool looking. So many of you might have seen this animation that we were posting on social media, and this is the kind of animation I'm talking about. You can see it's just a static drawing, but it's kind of nicely unfolding in front of your eyes, and there's a couple of different things that we can do to make that happen. But we're going to start with something much more basic than that. I've got this nice swirly little arrow here, and we're just going to make that kind of uncurl and animate in front of us. So if I switch over to After Effects, I'll just show you, zooming in a little bit, kind of what that animation is going to look like. So we're just going to have our arrow unfurl like this. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use a function within After Effects called the trim paths function. And basically that's a way that I can make a line. I can tell the computer I want this line to start from sort of 0% finished and get to 100% finished over a specific period of time. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So if I turn on the line that I have, basically this yellow line that you can see appearing over the black line, that's a vector path line. And all that means is the vector path is sort of a line that's calculated by the computer. It's not a raster line, so it's not made up of pixels. It's kind of a curve that the computer can read and understand. And if we look a little bit closer, I will attempt to just click on this line. You can see here it's a vector line that I can move around, and we sort of edit it with the little handles here. Many people, if you're a designer or you work with vectors, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about here. And because this is a kind of a digital line, the computer understands the dimensions of this line. You can animate over this path. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a digital version of the artwork that we've made that the computer understands it can animate across, and we're using that to animate our pixel-based artwork that we've made in Photoshop. You can do this process entirely with vectors, so I could just be animating the vector line from scratch. But I find it a lot quicker for my workflow to work in pixels or raster. And the great thing about this workflow is that you can animate any image that you've got. So you could be doing it over a photo or a pencil drawing that you've scanned in. It doesn't have to be a completely sort of digital artwork. And the other thing I like about this process is using a raster image or a pixel-based image as your base artwork, is that you can incorporate much more texture and character to the line than you could with a vector line, or it would be a lot more challenging.
Yeah, and sorry, just jumping in as well, got a question from chat. I guess in the same technique would work on scans of traditional artwork too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done that before with some ink drawings that I've done. I've sort of found a way to animate those, and it's really fun being able to sort of make those sort of completely sort of traditional based artworks move as well. So that's a good call out there from chat. Okay. Have I completely lost you, Flynn, or is this looking
I'm
okay?
with you. I mean, basically, you've got whatever your element is. We're doing a basic version right now. We obviously saw the final kind of piece, which has a lot more going on. But we've got our element that's being created in something like Photoshop, or maybe like some sort of pixel brush in Fresco or something like that. Really, however, and it's coming in and it's just a flat kind of static image, and we're going to do some stuff to make it appear to be revealing in front of our eyes.
Yeah. So I've just drawn this arrow in Photoshop, but one thing that I've done, I've just used a standard brush to draw that in. There's nothing fancy about it. The only thing I've done with this arrow is that I've broken it into two sections. And the reason that I've done that is that I want it to unfurl very smoothly, this arrow. But when we go to laying our vector path over the top, you'll see that if I tried to do one vector path that went over this section where the arrow crosses over itself, it would be, the vector path would cross over this other section of the arrow. And I want them to stay separate, so it can be a nice clean unfurling of it. So I'll show you what I mean when we take this image into Illustrator. So over in Illustrator, I've got my two sections of arrow here. I've got my first little squiggle there. And I've drawn this vector path over the top of that arrow. But you can see, because the vector path doesn't have any width variation, it's just one big block. If I had my other section of arrow here, you would see it would kind of clip over this other section of arrow.
Right.
And it's much easier for me to just do it in two sections and animate those separately, so it will clearly unfold. It might seem a bit abstract when we're just working on an arrow, but once we get into something more complex, that will make sense. So basically, I've drawn over the top just a vector path. It doesn't have to look beautiful. You can see it's very random kind of shape over the top. And I'm just going to export this as a Illustrator file. So I'm going to save that onto my desktop as just arrow.ai. So if we go over here, we've got arrow.ai. So I've got my my raster image, the arrow, and then I've got a vector version of the image over the top that I've drawn. So once I've got that set up, I can import that whole thing into After Effects. And we're going to go through this process again, so I'll show you the import process, but let's just assume for now that we've already got it in After Effects. And I'm taking those vector lines and applying the trim path function to them. And the way that you do that is that you've got your vector path here, and in contents, which is a little drop-down section underneath my vector line layer in my timeline, there's a little button called Add, and you can add all sorts of different sort of effects to your vector path, but the one that I'm choosing is called Trim Paths. And once we've got that there, it becomes a little drop-down menu, and I can choose where my line starts to appear and where my line ends. Static yellow line that we had before now is a moving line over the duration I've chosen. So I can move those anchor points and make it a slower reveal if I like, or I can make it I can move my little anchor points on the timeline and make it a really quick reveal. And the way that I've applied the movement of the vector line to the movement of the raster line underneath it is just by changing the something called the track mat. And the track mat is basically a way of applying one layer in After Effects. It's sort of making a mask of the layer beneath it. So the one that I've chosen is called Alpha Mat, and once I've done that, the same reveal that happens with the vector line applies to the layer underneath it. So the movement of the vector line now applies to the layer underneath, which is my raster line. Right. So this the black line that I've drawn in Photoshop is now animating along the same path as the vector line that was above it. So the arrow is not actually moving at all, frame by frame. It's just being revealed by the vector path. How's that standing
Yeah.
as a concept, Flynn?
Makes sense.
That's
What do you
working
think,
out
chat?
for you?
It makes sense to me. Yeah. Let us know if you have any questions as we're going along, guys. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
This
with
is
you.
the most complex part of it. So once we've got that general concept down, then we can sort of
I mean, it's a bit like
play with it.
masking, right? Like if you understand masking, it's a similar sort of thing. It's just
That's
done in
exactly
a
what
bit of
it
a
is.
different way, and you have to keep movement in mind.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So basically, we're going to create movement in the vector lines, and then that's going to be a mask that applies to our raster lines, so it reveals them. So now I've got my two sections of line with the vector pass over them, revealing nicely in After Effects. Okay, so that's a really basic version of it. I'm going to start the whole process again with a new, slightly more interesting artwork, and we'll go through it step by step. And yeah, hopefully you can follow along with me. And yeah, if there's any questions at any point, please just shout out, and I'll do my best to answer them. And we'll see how we go.
Let's roll.
Okay, so as I said, a lot of this work that I do is in business. If someone's making a, say, animation explaining the new value set within the bank or whatever it is, I end up doing a lot of that kind of thing. So a lot of it's sort of simple, quick drawing, and if you've been working in sort of a business area, I'm sure the word innovation is stuck in your mind
I was
forever.
going to say,
It's
do
the
you just have
constant catchphrase.
like certain words, like cliches, just like saved in your libraries, and you just drag it in and throw it in because
You
use
have
it
no
so
idea.
often, like
Yes, absolutely, I do.
You've got
and
sorry, you've got something for synergy. Got something for moving forward, next quarter, bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
I don't have images saved in my library, but I definitely have
got
an
them in your
internal
head.
library of of
awesome.
sort of business jargon. And the easiest metaphor that you can go to is the light bulb. I draw light bulbs all day long with this kind of thing.
It's a fine light bulb, so yeah, you've had a lot of practice. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we've got our innovation light bulb here that we're going to be doing for our corporate video. And it's just a fun little character. A couple things that I'll say about this one. This process is easy with simple line work. If you're getting into sort of like complex color or shading, there are ways to do that, but this applies, this animation process just really works well with simple line work. So you can see there's not a lot of shading or texture or colors or things like that. We will do color tomorrow, I think. But we're just sticking with simple line work for now. But the other thing that I'll mention is that I've used a nice textured brush for this one. And this is something that would be really much trickier, I think, maybe that's the way to do it, but it would be much trickier to do if this was a vector line work, getting that level of texture and getting the computer to animate that well. So that's one of the great things about this process. And the other good thing about the process is once you get going, it's really quick. So it's a bit of a cheat way of animating.
Right.
So again, because I've got some lines crossing over each other that I want sort of different stages of the drawing to appear at different times, I'm going to just make sure I've got those on separate layers. So I've got the light bulb as one section, I've got the arms and legs as one section, and they're just on separate layers there. You can see my little original sketch there. But anyway, we've got our Photoshop file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open a new Illustrator file. We're going to take it into Illustrator, and we're going to add our vector paths to it. So I'm going to go to Illustrator, I'm going to go to File, New. And the reason that I'm opening up a new file instead of just importing from Photoshop is that I want to make sure that I have the resolution of my file correct before it goes into After Effects. And the reason for that is that I want to maintain as much detail in the drawing. So if I do want to zoom in or zoom out in After Effects, I've got those pixels there. I've still got the resolution within the image. And this is something that's not very intuitive with Illustrator, because Illustrator is meant to be all vectors. You shouldn't have to worry about pixel dimensions. But for something like this, because I'm bringing a raster image into it, I need to think about what the dimensions of my file will be. Because the video is going to be exported as just a high definition video file, it'll be 1920 by 1080 pixels.
Right.
I'm going to give myself a little bit more than that to work with. So I'm just going to make a square image, which is 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. So let's just create that. And now I'm simply going to take my files from my Photoshop file, and I'm just going to copy them, and we're just going to paste all of those into Illustrator. So I'm just going to do those one at a time. Again, I'm sure there's a faster workaround, but this is what I'm doing. So we're going to drop all our individual layers from our character into Illustrator. And I'm going to make sure I've got those on separate layers as well. I don't want them all contained within the one layer in Illustrator.
Is that why you had them in separate layers in Photoshop and then brought them in individually?
Yes, they did all just fall into the same layer regardless, but I'm going to make sure I separate them out now. So I'm going to make some new layers and just drag my layers onto separate ones there. And now let's just kind of reconstruct our guy by putting all these bits back in the right places. All right, here we go. Okay, so we've got our light bulb reconstructed. So now I'm going to start drawing the vector paths over the top. And the way that you need to think about this is that the order that you put your vector paths down is kind of the order that you want the drawing to appear once we take it into After Effects. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I think with this one I just want the face to appear first, and maybe we'll start zoomed in on the face and then we can zoom out to see the rest of the drawing. So you could use the pen tool for this and slowly sort of draw your path that way, but I personally find the pen tool, some people are much better with it, but I find it quite slow. So I'm going to use the pencil tool, which basically draws a vector line for me, but I can just freehand draw on the screen like I would in Photoshop.
I think that helps as well, like depending on where your background is, like you're very comfortable holding a pencil, right? Like in real life.
Yeah.
So, it's a very comfortable space for you. You've got a tablet as well, but like maybe you don't have a background in illustration or drawing, and you just have a laptop like I do. Like I don't have a Wacom at the moment or anything. Then I would be probably using that pen tool.
It's a very good shout out. Yeah, I'm very stylus focused. That's kind of where I want all of my work to originate. So this works better for me, but you're absolutely right. The pen tool would work much better if you're using a laptop. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a line. It's a little faint on the screen, but you will see it in a second. And what I'm doing is I'm just tracing over all the different sections of the face that I want to appear in the order that I want them to appear. And I'm being pretty rough about this. I'm really not stressing about this being a neat, beautiful looking line. I'm just kind of knocking it out. Now I might just change a couple things about the stroke of that vector line that I've drawn. I'm going to give it a slightly more identifiable color, so let's go with yellow again. I'm increasing the weight of my line, and what I want to do is, the way that this process works is that the computer will reveal the vector line, and that reveals the illustration underneath. So we need the vector line to completely cover the raster line that we've drawn there. So you can see there's a little bit of black poking out from underneath that one. So I'm just going to grab my arrow tool, and I'm going to make sure it covers up that line completely. And I might make my my line a bit transparent, just so it's easier for me to see where it covers over all my line work. So that's looking pretty good. That's nicely covered up. And now I'm going to do the rest for the rest of the light bulb image. I'll just get rid of those layers so they're not distracting me. So let's make a new layer, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to trace over with my pencil tool. I'm going to try and cover up all that line work. And you want to make sure you just don't miss any little sections of it. So we're just quickly tracing over that line, and I've just missed that eyebrow there, so I'm just going to scribble over that. So again, we've got our vector line there, and I'm just going to neaten it up using the anchor points for that vector path. I'm going to make sure it's nice and clearly covered up. Nice. If it's feeling like it's not quite covering it. An easy way to fix it is to just increase the width of your stroke and make a fatter line, and that'll nicely cover it all up.
You could probably use the Illustrator width tool as well if there were specific bits in there.
Yes, I don't know if that actually applies once you've taken the vector path into After Effects. So you could cover it up nicely in Illustrator, but I don't know if the width tool reads in After Effects. So
there you go.
Yeah. So I've done the light bulb section, and now I just want to do the legs. So we're going to do the same process again, just on a new layer. I'll get my pencil tool out. Bear with me, folks. I will just scribble over the top of this.
While you're scribbling, I'm going to try and ask you a question. We'll see how we go.
Go for it.
Alessandra asks, Bill, is there an illustration style that you have done before that you didn't show to anyone or used it once that you might go back to one day?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Look, I mean, in many ways, sort of my own style that I work in, sort of like the way that I make artworks, I guess, is something that is it's quite a challenging style to find commercial work in, because it's very, very slow and very labor intensive. I'll just show you sort of some of the bigger artwork pieces, like something like this.
Yeah, wow.
Or some of the really sort of big complicated images that I do. They just take a really long time. Like something like this one will take sort of month and month.
Wow,
and it's very hard to find.
I haven't seen that one before.
Oh yeah, well, I don't make as much of this stuff as I used to. It's something that I think when I was a sort of struggling student or just starting my career, I had a lot more free time to work on things like this. And I love making artworks like this, but it's just it's a real struggle to find a job where people sort of have the time and the creative space to work on something like that. Yeah. So that's something that I would love to find ways to make work. Like I've done, I guess I go back to it a little bit with the kind of like look and find books that I've been doing. I mean, they're quite big and complex as well, but that's a style I'd love to explore more if I had the chance. And the other thing actually is watercolor drawings. I love doing watercolor drawings, and I never do it for work. So I mean, there's plenty of work doing that kind of thing, but yeah, I just don't come across it all that much. Or I don't put it in my portfolio, so maybe that's why not that much of that work comes up.
Right. Cool. Great answer and great question. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm just doing the last section here. I'm just covering over these little highlights that I did. And again, you can see I'm just scribbling over the top of these. I'm not worrying about the detail too much. I might change the color of the path just so I can see where the I've missed a section. And maybe I'll make the line a little bit fatter again to make sure it's all covered up. All right, so now you can see we've got this beautiful artwork that we've created.
This reminds me of like when people do those videos where they're like drawing with icing or something, like on a cookie, and then they flip it the other way, and it's like this perfect caricature or something. I was talking
to my wife about that the other day. Like, because of TikTok, the standards for pancake art are so out of control these days. So like high. My mum used to make like a Mickey Mouse face out of pancakes or something. And I was like, this woman's a genius. That's amazing. Yeah. But now people are just sort of doing the Mona Lisa out of pancake batter. It's
I know, it's crushing. People are so
hard to keep up. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save that. So we'll just call this one light bulb. I'm just saving the Illustrator file of that. That all looks fine. Okay, and we're ready to move into After Effects again. So let me just go File, New Project.
It's a good question. I think we're probably going to find the answer once we're in After Effects. But the question is there a reason that you did a long zigzag scribble as opposed to a thick line?
A long zigzag?
So I think you zigzagged like this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Rather than getting a really thick, like, stroke and kind of just going like this.
That's a very, very good question. And the answer to it is that with the lines that I'm drawing, I'm kind of trying to replicate what it would be like if my pen was making those strokes. So for making those little notches like that, it would look quite artificial if they all just appeared in one big swoop. But if I do a couple of little notches like this, it feels much more natural, and you'll see that once we start animating it. So very good call out again. Cool. So I'm gonna open a new file in After Effects. Just doing HD file, so 1920 by 1080, very standard. So that's all good. We're gonna open that up. And now I'm gonna grab my the file that we just created, so the Lightbulb AI, and I'm just gonna drag and drop that straight into, don't even know what that section's called. I think it's called the project section. And I'm getting a little pop-up that says import kind, footage, or composition. I'm going to say it's a composition, and we're just going to say we want it to be the document size. So those are some little settings that it's good to import with, and that just ensures that the layer dimensions are correct when we import it into After Effects. So I've got my light bulb. It imports as a folder with all the separate layers in there, or we can just drag the whole composition into our timeline. So I'm going to do that. So if we zoom out, we've got our beautiful light bulb in our composition. And now I want to start working on this composition. So if anybody knows or has spent some time in After Effects, everything's kind of done in, I guess, what I call them pre-comps, but they're kind of like folders. So we've got our whole image with all its layers embedded within my main composition. But if I just double click on that, it's going to take me into that folder where I can work within that folder. Now the background has gone black, which is a little hard to work with. So I'm just going to press Command K and go to Composition Settings. I'm just going to change the background color to white so we can see what we're doing. Now, if you remember from Illustrator, we had our 3 raster images that we created in Photoshop, our 3 layers there. And then we've got all our vector lines over the top. Now, before we can work with these vector lines, we need to convert them to something called a shape layer in After Effects. And basically that's just a layer that After Effects understands and can work with more. So it's just going to turn those AI files basically into a After Effects version of the same thing. So I'm just going to select the vector line layers that we've got there. So there's layers 6, 7, 5, and 4. And I'm going to go down to Create, and there's an option which is just called Create Shapes from Vector Layer. And it's created a bunch of new layers for us. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete the old ones that we had because we don't need those anymore. Now, at this point, Ben Marriott would say, name your layers, folks, but I'm feeling reckless and out of control, and I'm just not going to bother doing that because we haven't got time. Now I've got all my nice vector layers, and we're going to do the trim path function that we talked about before. So let me just get rid of those, and we'll just focus on one at a time. So we've got that big red line over the top of our the little yellow highlight lines that we had before, and I'm going to go ahead and drop down the menu underneath the layer 7 outlines, and I'm going to go Add Trim Paths. Now, once we've got that, I'll drop down the menu next to the Trim Path section, and you can see there's Start and there's End, and they've got different percentages next to them. So currently, End is at 100% and Start is at 0%. And what this means is if I I can click on the 100% next to End and move that back and forth. And you can see the line is appearing and disappearing as I change the percentage of how finished is this line. So obviously we want to start with no line, so we're going to roll it the whole way back to 0, and I'm going to click on the little clock next to it, the stopwatch, to make a keyframe, and I will drag my timeline down, and I'm deciding how long I want this to take to animate. All this stuff's pretty quick. The reason I can kind of do the lines in a really rough, sort of shoddy way is because it's all going to appear really quickly, so you're not going to really see the details. Right. If you wanted it to unveil slowly, and we might do a bit of that tomorrow, you would want your lines to be much more accurate. But we're kind of doing a rough, quick version of this now. So now that I've moved my timeline down to, say, 1 second, I'm going to roll my percentage next to the end point all the way back up to 100, and it's made a new keyframe for me. So now if I press play, line appears like so. So let me move that line down on top of the appropriate layer, which is our yellow line work layer. So it needs to be on top. So I've got my red line on top of those yellow marks that we'd like it to be masking out. And now I can go down to my vector layer, the yellow marks, and I'm going to change the track matte to alpha matte, which is what we talked about like sort of applying a mask where it takes the layer above it and applies the mask of that to the layer below it. And now if we click our play button, we've got lines appearing, it's moving. Hey, so that's like a success. Like magic, indeed. Now, one thing we can do with this, which is going to speed up this process fantastically, is instead of replicating the process over every line, we can simply drag. So if I open up my vector line layer and go down to the trim paths function, I can just drag over those two keyframes, and I'm just going to go Command C, and I'm going to copy those keyframes. Now, if I go up to, say, this line here, I think this is the one that goes over the arms and legs, I can just Command V, and I've pasted the same trim path function, the same keyframes. I've applied that to the line that goes over the arms and legs. And now you can see it animates at exactly the same time. And if I drop down the menu from that vector line that goes over the arms and legs, I can see I've got my keyframes there next to the trim path function, and it animates over 1 second exactly. Because this one is drawing more than just the lines, it's covering a bit more space, I think I want to make that animation a little bit longer. So I could just grab that keyframe of when the line ends, when it gets to 100%, and I'm just going to drag that out to say 3 seconds. And now if I press play, that line animates a bit slower over the arms and legs.
Right.
Let's just find our arms and legs. Maybe you're right, Ben Marriott. If I'd labeled any of these, I could find where things were.
Ignored his advice and then realized how
suffering the
valuable it was in
consequences
the same stream.
Yeah, we're all learning here. So if I apply the track matte function like we talked about before, you can see my arms and legs are appearing now. So I've got my yellow lines appearing at the top. We've got our arms and legs are appearing, but let's now just quickly do the face and the outline of the light bulb. Okay, I am going to click on the lines of the face, and again, I'm just copying and pasting the same trim path function in. We'll do the same thing to the vector lines that go outside the body. So now both those lines are appearing. But I don't want them to appear at the same time. I want to give them a little bit more space. So we're going to move those keyframes around a little bit to get them in the right place. So I'm just opening the drop-down menus for each of those vector lines. And let's make them a little bit longer. So that's the wrong one. Okay, you're absolutely right, Ben Marriott. I'm sorry I ever went against you and your knowledgeable word. Okay, so I'm just moving these keyframes around to get them into the right position on the timeline that I want them to. So I want these two to play after each other. Now that I've got them in the right position, you can see our yellow line for the face appears first, and then the yellow line for the outside of the body appears after that. So that's looking good. Now, in this section, we've got two separate vector lines, which are revealing one section of raster work. Now, this is a bit of a complication that I've set up for myself, because you can't apply the track matte function to 2 layers above. You can only do 1 layer above. So I need to combine these two vector lines together.
Right.
And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to make a pre-comp out of those 2 lines. So I've got my 2 vector lines appearing, and I'm just going to grab both of those. I'm going to press down the Shift key, and I'm going to right-click on them and just say pre-compose. And now that's saying, okay, Okay, I'll go ahead and label it. That's face and body.
You have to label it now.
And now they're just treating it as one layer, and I can go ahead and apply my I can apply my alpha matte mask, and that didn't work. I did the wrong layer. Alpha matte mask, and now you can see our face and our body are appearing in one go. So that's coming along nicely. Now I want, so I think I'll have the face and then the body appearing, and then we'll do the arms and legs after that. So let's find on the timeline, it's at about 4 seconds. So now I'll just grab my arms and legs layer, and I'm going to move that down so it begins at 4 seconds. And I'll do the same track map function is applying there. Oh, okay, and now we've got our arms and legs appearing afterwards.
Cool, and you've just kind of staggered the timeline so that it doesn't all happen at the exact same time, right?
That's right. So you can either move the keyframes or you can just move the layer altogether. Both ways do the same thing. We're just moving it around in time. So I'm going to find when the last section of that shadow appears. And you can see again with the shadow at the bottom, instead of just scribbling over the whole thing, I've drawn the lines over in Illustrator in kind of a circular motion. And that's replicating something that feels a bit more natural. So when you're tracing over your lines in Illustrator, it's good to keep in mind, how would I draw this if I was drawing it from scratch?
Right, and that comes back to that question that we had in chat before as well, like why the zigzag? Why is it not just a big, thick kind of stroke? And it's because of this. That's really cool. That like illustrates kind of the point before.
Yeah, definitely. And trying to sort of replicate a natural pattern. I mean, with a drawing like this, you could certainly just draw it from scratch and screen record, and you'd have a very similar kind of video at the end. I think I spent ages trying to do that. I actually did quite a few videos where I didn't do any of this process. I just recorded myself drawing, and that was the video.
Right.
But when you start working with a commercial client for something like this, people are going to want to make little changes in time and little edits to the drawing and things like that. And if I was just screen recording, I just have to start over again every time. But with something like this, you have a much more control over the whole process, and you can edit it as you go, and it's just a much more flexible way of working.
Plus, presumably, like of course with all clients, you might deliver something and say, hey, these are really great. Could you animate a few of these? We want to use them in, whatever. And then so it's useful to know after the fact how you can use this technique as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that all of my layers extend to the end of the timeline, because you can see here my light bulb is just disappearing halfway, but I'd like them all to get to at least what's the end of the animation? Okay, so the animation ends, let's just call it 10 seconds here. So I'm just going to crop everything down to that 10-second mark. Oh. So I'm just taking my layers and I'm trimming them all down to 10 seconds. Oops. Just need to make sure to have the right layers selected. I'm holding down Shift, which clips things to the we've got one little jitter there. In our pre-comp, it doesn't extend all the way to 10 seconds, so we're just going to quickly fix that. Oh, it does. Okay. All right. Now, if I go back into my original composition, now you can see our animation is beautifully playing out in the composition, and it's all just on one layer now. Because it's disappearing at the end there, I'm just going to trim it down to this point. And I can right-click and say freeze on last frame. And now my illustration just stays there for the duration of the composition now.
Right. For everything after where the playhead was at that point, it's just going to stay static, whatever that frame looked like.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole process. We've got our illustration there, and now we can do whatever we want with this layer. Perhaps we want it to start really, really big. So I could drop down my menu and go to transform, and I could change the position and the scale maybe. So perhaps we could start our animation just focusing on the face. So if I put those right at the start, we can start really close up, and then when it finishes around here, we could shrink our frame down so it fits nicely on the page. And then we start with something like this. So it's got a little bit more movement to our overall animation, and we could see sort of different sections appearing at the right time on screen.
Yeah.
And perhaps when we get to the end there, we could put in some more keyframes, and then we could dramatically move it off screen. So we could sort of finish our illustration and then get rid of it, and maybe the next illustration could come into frame. So we've got lots and lots
running off frame. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but yeah, that's another tutorial, getting those little legs working. Yeah, so that's the whole process. Questions?
That's awesome. Yeah, throw out definitely if there are any questions. So in this process, and for those that joined us like a little bit later as we were going through, it was really taking any kind of pixel-based artwork. Like we spoke about it before, that like, you know, line work is best, kind of keeping it simple. The more complicated it gets, right? And then there was a little bit of Illustrator in there to get the vector pass over the top. Yep. And then bring it all into After Effects.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that you could do this entire process by just skipping the Illustrator bit. You can
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can draw all of your vector paths just with the pen tool in After Effects, and then you could animate those paths. So that would be perhaps a simpler way to do it. But I find it's kind of like Illustrator's designed for drawing vector paths, so you've got a lot more flexibility, and it's a much faster process for me. So I prefer doing the vector section in Illustrator, just because you've got a bit more flexibility with the tools available there. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And what was my question? So Johanna in chat saying it'd be great for breakdown type videos. Yeah, I think there's something really almost like explainer type videos. You'll see maybe this sort of thing, which you know, you see all over the place as well.
Yeah. I mean, I originally started doing these kind of these animations. Doing lots of them were sort of you can see this kind of thing with a hand animated over the top. This is using a different kind of software. You could do exactly that in After Effects, and there's lots of that kind of work of like those whiteboard styled videos. So that's kind of, we're doing exactly the same thing here. But I kind of prefer it without the hand now. The hand feels like a bit of a gimmick.
Anything trendy, right? Like it kind of it reminds me of a time, that particular thing. Like I can remember where I last saw something like that and thought it was super cool, and it was a while ago.
Absolutely, and it is one of those things that I when I first started doing these things, I thought I've got 2 more years of whiteboard videos, but there's still people discovering the whiteboard video. It's like there's a very long tail on some of these trends.
And the squeaky, it makes the squeaky sound every now and then as well.
So
I was going to ask, how did you find out about this? Like, what was there a commercial purpose? I know you sort of mentioned that occasionally it would come up, but like, would a client see the scribing technique that you do and say, hey, can we animate this? And can you tell us, like, you don't have to tell us the client or anything, but like where they were wanting to use it? Were they wanting to use it in like presentations, or, you know, was it part of like a separate project, or, you know, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. The first job I ever did in this style was for a company that was using it for an internal training video, and lots of these videos are that kind of thing. And my manager at the time was different to the current manager I have now. Just said, "Oh, yep, you want it as an animation? Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yep, we can do that."
Oh, and okay. I said, signed up.
I'm sure I can do this. So I accepted the job before having any idea how to do this whatsoever. And I tried to sort of figure out the process on the fly. And I was using a different program at the time, which was awful. and I kind of just bashed my way through it and was up all night trying to figure out how to do this animation. But anyway, it turned into me doing more of these kind of videos, and most of them are kind of internal videos for businesses.
Yeah.
But then a lot of it came from my live drawing work, where people sort of see me drawing in real time. And people said, well, can we just have that video? Can you record that and send it to us?
Right. Okay.
And that's possible, but something that looks cool live doesn't often look as cool watching a sped up 30-minute video or something. So I kind of had to find a way to recreate the live drawing in a much cleaner, more clear way. And how I learned this process was actually going back to, sorry, we keep mentioning him, Ben Marriott. We used to work together, and after he'd gone off and become very successful on YouTube, I just called him in a panic one day and said, like, you got to tell me how to do this, Ben, help me out here. And he very kindly explained to me over the phone about trim paths and that kind of thing.
That's amazing. The Ben Marriott hotline. Yeah, we'll just share his number in chat, and then if anyone has any questions,
we'll just post it up on Super and maybe his home address as well. But yeah, very talented man, and he helped me out. So good guy.
Great. It's good to have talented friends. Yes, I understand.
I know we've just got a couple minutes left.
I've got one more quick question, actually. Jump in. So Manny was asking in chat, could you have text appear in the animation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the great thing about this is, I mean, you can either use all the text functions that After Effects has to animate text if you're using fonts and things. But if you're doing, it's great for handwritten text. I do lots of handwritten text in this style.
Calligraphy and handwritten text,
Yeah, and once you get the process down, it's very, very quick to turn over, because basically you do the drawing, you get it approved by the client, and then you just do the tracing thing and import it into After Effects, and it can become quite quick doing it that way. Yeah.
Cool. Great question. Yes, you're right. We do have about three or 4 minutes left.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just kind of tease what we're going to do tomorrow. So I don't know if any of you have seen, I wish I had brought a sample of it, but Walt Disney Studios, one of their kind of like 100th anniversary things that goes up before lots of Disney animations is you kind of see a pencil drawing of Steamboat Willie appear, and the line work appears over that, and then he starts moving. It's kind of like this process video kind of thing, and it's really beautifully done. And for a while I've been wanting to try and find a way to sort of quickly replicate that. But it's taking something like the vector lines that we're working with. It's a very sort of hard digital process, but you're kind of trying to recreate it in quite a soft, natural way.
Yeah.
And with this video, I've kind of done a little bit of that, but I think it could go further. I'm keen to sort of explore that more. So I'm going to combine a couple different animation processes together with this one that we've been through today. And so I'll use some things like, this is a video that I took on my iPad this morning using Fresco, the Adobe iPad drawing. And I've just recorded myself doing a rough pencil drawing here. And I want to take this piece of video that I've written, it's just a screen recording of that, and work on top of that to build up a really beautiful illustration of an apple that will hopefully look quite natural, and we'll get some nice watercolor effects going on. And I kind of want to make a strongly digital process that looks like it's replicating something that feels really natural and like it's done on paper. So that's what we're going to try and do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That is our time, ladies and gentlemen. So we're back with Bill. I almost said Ben Marriott then. We're back with Bill. We've just dropped his name so many times, like Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls, Biggie Smalls. And we'll be back at the same time. So it's 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for us here. And we're going to jump back into some more reveal animation stuff. Come back with your questions. Thanks for questions, chat. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Bill. And I'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.
Bye.